Right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's Common Council meeting of October 15th, and also welcome to those that are watching on our cable channel. And could we have a roll call, please?
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive is excused. Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here. Okay, please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Alder Rolke will move to approve tonight's agenda.
And a second.
Okay, Alder Rolke motioned, and a second by Alder Rosted to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment? None? All right. And first item would be the consent agenda, which has the special committee of the whole minutes, the council minutes, and the committee of the whole minutes of October 1st of 2024, and then the mayoral appointments to Patrick Vander Zanden to fill a vacant seat on the Board of Appeals, and then to reappoint the alder position to the Columbus Utility Commission.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted and a second by Alder Reed to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. Next, we will move on to consider and take action on the conditional use permit to allow outdoor storage at 115 Commercial Drive for Lyco Manufacturing. This was discussed at the October 1st, 2024 meeting.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit to allow outdoor storage at 115 Commercial Drive for Lyco Manufacturing.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted to approve the CUP at 115 Commercial Drive. Any further discussion on this?
One question.
Question, yeah.
Nothing changed since the last time we saw this, right? No. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next would be to consider and take action on the preliminary plat for Cardinal Heights at 1400 Park Avenue. Also discussed last week at last meeting.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the preliminary plat for Cardinal Heights at 1400 Park Avenue.
Alder Lawson will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rolke, a second by Alder Lawson to approve the preliminary plat. Any discussion? Alder Finkler?
I just have a quick question. It still says in here that the driveway needs to come off of O'Brien Court rather than Park Avenue, but from Plan Commission and then to COW, it was communicated that that was going to stay coming off of Park Avenue. Do we need to do anything to make sure that they're not restricted to O'Brien Court?
Mike?
The recommendation from the Plan Commission was to recommend approval of the preliminary plat with the conditions in the review letter except for the driveway issue.
So we need to amend our motion?
That should be included, well, maybe, Susan, can you reread the?
Well, just to clarify, so that everyone's on the same page, staff's recommendations were to not allow
Yep.
off of Park Street. Plan Commission's approved motion was to allow off of Park Street. And I personally cannot remember what the discussion at COW was, if there was discussion on this specific issue. I don't think there was, so I think it would be a good thing to clarify what the council is approving in terms of driveway access, whether that's from Park Avenue or requiring it from O'Brien Court.
I will amend my motion to approve the preliminary plat for Cardinal Heights at 1400 Park Avenue with the adjustment of allowing the driveway to stay on Park Avenue.
A second.
Okay, we have the amended motion by Alder Wilkie and second by Alder Lawson. Any further discussion on that? Alder Rusted?
Per the letter, the 3 bullet points are the ones that are in the, addressed by them, correct? The existing farmhouse driveway, the 50-foot setback by the DOT, and the sanitary sewer. So if we approve it per the council packet, we should be fine.
No, because in the council packet, that's why I brought up my question, because in the council packet, it says that the city engineer and development review team recommended the farmhouse driveway access O'Brien Court rather than Park Avenue. And Plan Commission had the recommendation to council that it is accessed through Park Avenue, not O'Brien Court. So that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
one thing we didn't want to go through for recommendations. I just have one last question before we vote. I'm getting mixed, like, I've had some constituents reach out to me and say, we can say no HOA, but I remember from last meeting, I was told we cannot determine whether or not we cannot decide whether or not there's an HOA. So I actually had people reach back out to me saying to double check that. So I'm doing my due diligence and I'm double checking that.
Don't know what you want me to say that I didn't say last time. The homeowners association is a product of the development, just like the covenants and restrictions that are in your packet are a covenant of the development and are at the discretion of the developer. The city that I'm aware of doesn't have anything in its code that regulates what the covenants are supposed to say, except for the fact that they be consistent with city code and state statute, which my brief reading of both of those documents suggests that they are. So I think it's completely up to the developer to make that final call.
Alder Lawson?
Just going back to what was mentioned in the letter. So right above the 3 bullets, it does say, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat with the condition that all comments in the review letter be addressed except Lot 2 shall access Park Avenue.
Yeah, we still have to put that in our motion
She
because
did.
it's, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying for him. We still did it right.
Anything else, Michael? Okay, any other further discussion? Okay, then all in favor of approving the preliminary plat?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, next is the consider and take action on Resolution 7-24, special assessments for the 2024 street and utility improvements. The special assessments, you will notice, were talked about on the COW of March 5th of 2024, and then also at a regular council meeting of April 1st of 2024. So in your packet is the final special assessments for that project. So. we would need a motion to approve this special assessments before we can go into discussion.
Yep. I'll move to approve Resolution 7.24 special assessments for 2024 street and utility improvements. And by the way, I love that the dates are in here from the last time we talked about it.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Roki. Discussion, Michael?
Just one quick question. The table that indicates the repayment terms, is that something standard that the city has done previously?
This is a carry forward of the last maybe 4 or 5 special assessment projects that we've done.
Okay.
It can be adjusted if you feel the need, but it was just where we started before.
Jason?
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, some of you, obviously, this might have been before the election, but, so this is the final special assessment. So it was approved, and really the only change from the original that was approved earlier this year is we just update the final quantities from construction. So, we make all these estimates and design it, so, a driveway might be 100 square feet, and then when you build it, it might be 105 square feet or something. So these are just, nothing has changed in the assessment, other than, I think there was one ownership transfer. There was a property sold, so that information got updated to the new owner, and then all the final quantities are in here. I can tell you that most all the assessments went down. I think there was 1 or 2 that went up slightly, and there's some reasons why that was, but there's, just obviously a change. This assessment is for the residential properties only. There was actually 2 assessments that were approved, one for the commercial side of the project and one for the residential. This is for the commercial only, or for the residential only. We weren't done yet with the commercial, so we didn't have final numbers, so you'll see that one coming through here shortly. But in order to try and move this through and get it on the payment availability before the tax roll, we just wanted to try and get the residents taken care of that we knew we had done. So if you have any questions about it, I can certainly chime in, but again, I just wanted everybody to kind of know that it should be virtually the same except for changing quantities and some ownership updates, so.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution 7-24 passed. Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the resolution 8-24, the garbage and recycling fee assessment. And this again was brought up at the October 1st COW.
I'll move to approve Resolution 8-24 garbage and recycling fee assessment.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Roki. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then next would be to consider and take action on Class A beer and Class A liquor license application for is it Blanca's or Blanca's? Mexican store for licensing period of October 15th, 2024 to June 30th of 2025. With this stipulation that the final inspection still needs to be done by Scott Hazeltine.
I'll move to approve the Class A beer and Class A liquor license application for Blanca's Mexican Store for licensing period of October 15th, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, with the stipulation that it passes its final inspection with Chief Hazeltine.
Second.
Motion by Alder Roki and a second by Alder Finkler. Excuse me. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then next would be to consider and take actions on the claims in the amount of $357,112.47.
I'll move to approve the claims in the amount of $357,112.47.
second. Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Lawson. to pay the claims. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Rosted,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Relke,
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. And report of city officers. Chief Weiner, you had something to say?
I'm gonna cede my time. I don't have anything to say tonight, so I'm gonna allow Chief Weiner to make some comment on a couple of things.
Got it. Great. Good evening. I'll just be real quick with a couple of things. First and foremost, for the community, October 26th, which is a week from Saturday, from 9 to 11 is the Fall Drug Take-Back Day. We've moved the location this time, and probably for the future, it'll be at the police department. 159 South Ludington Street. We'll be out front. You can pull up. We'll walk down to your car or out to your car, whatever it may be, from 9 to 11. And as of now, I plan to staff it. So if you got something to get rid of, please bring it. We can't take liquids or sharps, are part of the program, but from 9 to 11, we'd like to see if you have something to get rid of. Secondly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the scam arrest we made 2 weeks ago. That's why I wasn't at the council meeting, actually. I was on surveillance. Just how widespread this is and how deep it is actually very scary in this day and age. That person traveled multiple states to come here and was going to take $60,000 cash from an older person here in town, and we thwarted that. And it's led into other states and possibly an international ring, and a ring with headquarters on the East Coast, and it has just really, really spiraled. I guess the message I want to get out from that is be leery of messages you get, be leery of phone calls you get. In this day and age of technology, anything is possible. I've talked to some of the people in the other states. One person in Tennessee is out $149,000 and essentially ruined her life. She's 79 years old, and that's a lot of money to anybody, but money she needed. So just be leery of the phone calls. They sound convincing. They're extremely convincing, actually. We played along with the situation here, and we're monitoring the phone call, and it was just crazy how much power they have over the phone. So I want to give a shout out to the Farmers and Merchants Bank because their attentiveness to someone withdrawing that large sum of money in cash, a couple of questions, they knew something was up and called us right away. So they saved that person $60,000, or it would have been gone, and it would have been reported the next day or maybe later that night, and we would have never been able to do what we did. So just be leery of emails, phone calls, anything you get that just doesn't make sense. Because they send you one of the common ones, and that's how it started out with this one, is they got what looked like to be a invoice from PayPal with a phone number on the bottom. Well, the phone number was to the scammers, even though it looked like it was an invoice from PayPal. So if you ever get an invoice from somewhere, look up their legitimate business number. Don't call the number that's on the form you get. And for those of you that know people, they seem to target the older people. Maybe have conversations with family or friends that are older, just to be very, very leery. I mean, some of these are just beyond belief that we dealt with, and it's really, it's really gone deep. And hopefully we can. And the person coming here, and this is all public record, so nothing I'm sharing that is secret. But he had on his phone plane tickets to go to the Twin Cities after here to do the same thing by his own admission, and from there to Denver, Colorado, to do the same thing. So this is a very organized, they run it like a business, as silly as that may sound, potentially from another country. So just be leery of that. Also, we are still looking for substitute crossing guards. If there's anybody out there that would be interested, we've had a couple of runs where we've been short multiple crossing guards on a single shift. And I was going to cover one of the crossings along with two other officers. We had 3 to cover one day. And I had a meeting in Madison with the Secret Service that I needed to get to. So I brought in Amy Joel, covered a crossing for us. She volunteered, so I appreciated that very much. We take it very seriously, but the last few weeks, we've just had some real shortages. So substitute could be once or twice a month, or maybe once a week if someone's out or someone's injured. So, I mean, just having someone that we could call in a pinch, it wouldn't mean a lot of hours. It would be the, occasional one. So feel free to contact the police department Monday through Friday during business hours. If there's anybody out there that would be interested in doing that, we would love to have you on board and, have officers cover less when we have other calls or other things to do. And I just want to talk briefly about, I mentioned my meeting with the Secret Service. It had to do with the motorcade that went through town here. We had the responsibility of blocking some of the on-ramps to 151 and also the Highway K Bridge over 151, which is still in the city. We had 2 meetings with the Secret Service over a couple of days, and it was actually kind of impressive how structured it is. I mean, that's what they do this time of year every day. But it's just kind of neat being part of that process. I was on the Highway K Bridge, so all I got to see of the motorcade was the roofs as they went under the bridge. I didn't get to see a whole lot other than that. But motorists, for the most part, were cooperative about not getting on the on-ramp. We had a situation with a semi-driver who was not so cooperative, but we dealt with that. But for the most part, everything was great. But again, it was just kind of neat to be part of that. It was very different. When I got a call about that meeting and to be in Madison and what it was for, I'm like, wow, that's going to be kind of neat, and it kind of was. A big room full of very important people from Secret Service all over the country, and they have different teams, and it was really kind of interesting to be part of that. But that's all I had. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I'd like to just go a little further on that. I received a letter from the Wisconsin State Patrol Association for thanking Chief Weiner and his staff for helping out. They were very impressed with Dennis and his staff and of their professionalism and how they handled themselves. Thank you. And then Municipal Electric Utilities of Wisconsin sent electric crews, including Columbus, down to Lakeland, Florida, to assist with power restoration. I've seen some of the pictures of the work being done. You just see bucket truck after bucket truck after bucket truck, all lined up in a row, getting lines back up. It sounds like they'll be heading home fairly soon. But, thanks to Wisconsin crews for taking time away from their families to go down and help others in need. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Rosted to adjourn. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Regular council meeting is adjourned.
Everybody good with just rolling right through? Okay. In that case. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, October 15th. And if I could have a roll call, please.
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive is excused. Reed. Here. Relke.
Here.
Rosted.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda, and I would take a motion for same.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Rosted. Is there any discussion?
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, you can discuss.
I'd just like to move number 9 up to the top, so Doylestown Fire doesn't have to sit through all the presentation and the budget discussion.
Are you okay with amending your?
Sorry. I move to approve, or I amend my motion to approve the agenda to move number 9 between 1 and 2.
And you're willing to amend your second then? Alder
Correct,
Rosted?
yep.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Included in your packet tonight are department reports for file for the library from 9 of 2024, Lifestar from 8 of 2024, police from 9 of 2024, and treasurer from 9 of 2024. And was there anybody signed up for public comment? No. Okay. First item of new business is to consider and discuss requests from the Doylestown Fire Department, and I believe we have Andrew Langsdorf here to discuss tonight. If you want to come up to the podium. Okay.
I guess we're just looking to rent the pavilion to do a sportsman's banquet, and the only thing we wanted to double check on is there'll be guns as prizes. The gun dealer will be there. There won't be any ammunition. They'll be disassembled. They might assemble them for display purposes, but just wanted to make sure that's okay with you guys to have that going on in the pavilion, I guess. Pretty controlled thing. I help with the Rio one. You can only be in there if you buy a ticket, so it's not just open to the public.
Matt?
Just to clarify, the reason we put this on the agenda, there is no policy that would prohibit this event. Staff is comfortable with the event, but we also wanted to make sure that we had a chance to weigh in on the front end of this rather than be reactive. So, the chance to ask any questions or address any concerns before finalizing the reservation.
And I guess my one question is, anybody who would be bidding on these auction items, they would have to pass a background check? saying
Yeah,
that they were-
so we
Okay.
would be likely using Smitty's out of Deerfield, the gun owner, he'll come up, or gun shop owner. He'll do background checks that night, so the firearms don't leave without a past background check, otherwise they go back with the gun shop owner, so.
Okay, thank you. Alder Finkler?
My only question is on like processes and procedures, since this isn't something I've seen come through COW before. Do we have to wait for this to go to council or for approval? Does this necessarily need approval? Or if nobody has concerns, we can proceed? Like, how does that work? It seems like it's kind of painful to make them wait another 2 weeks to go through council.
Welcome to the world of the committee of the whole. If you have another meeting scheduled in the interim, you can certainly take it up then, but otherwise, yes, you have to, well, technically, this is not something that normally comes before council to begin with.
Right. That's my question.
So this, I lost my agenda. Oh, here it is. Consider and discuss is your agenda item tonight. And I think that in the normal course of business, and if Amy Jo is still here, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the normal course of business, she kind of takes the lead on renting the pavilion. And if there is no concerns from the council, then I don't think anything else needs to be done at the council level. The alcohol license application, if they decide to go through that, that's a separate process that goes through the clerk's office, and that doesn't have to come back here either. So if you all give the head nod tonight, Amy Jo can do her thing, and Susan can do her thing if necessary, and you're done.
Okay, since we have that fun rule that everything has to go to council, do we have to make a motion that says like that Amy Jo can just proceed? No? We can
I
just give
don't
that
even think you
direction?
need to do that.
Okay, perfect.
Amy Jo, did you?
I was just gonna state that the date is penciled and reserved for them, so if we did have to wait 2 more weeks, then you would be fine, either way.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, Alder Lawson?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the chief if he had any concerns.
Any other questions? Is everybody comfortable with just oh, go ahead, Susan, I'm sorry.
And your name again is Andrew?
Yep, Langsdorf, Andrew Langsdorf.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good to go? Is everybody comfortable with allowing Amy Jo to just do her thing with this? Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. Next item is presentation by Greg Johnson of Ehlers regarding capital planning and future debt issuance.
Good evening. I'm Greg Johnson from Ellers. I'll be going through the financing plan that was in your packet. This is a multi-year financing plan that looks at projects incorporated into the city's capital improvement plan, so it focuses on years 2024 through 2029. On the first page of the overview of the financing plan, we've just kind of summarized the approach that we've used in terms of looking at financing options for all the projects, both on the city side, excuse me, and the utility side. We're going to discuss two types of debt this evening that are allowed under state statute. The first type is called general obligation debt. It's the most common form of debt that municipalities issue, carries the lowest interest rate. It's called general obligation debt because it's a very secure form of debt, but there's a limit to the amount of general obligation debt a municipality can have outstanding, and I'll talk about that in a few moments. The second form of debt is called revenue debt, where you're pledging a non-tax levy revenue source to repay the debt service. So that's applicable in the case of the utilities, the water and electric utility and the sewer utility. The main reason communities consider issuing revenue debt is that there is no legal limit to the amount of debt you can have outstanding, but you do need to make sure that the revenues are sufficient to repay the debt. So we'll talk about both forms of debt for the 2024 and the 2025 projects. All those are funded with general obligation debt. Most of the utility projects beyond 2025 are funded with revenue debt. So in terms of the financial analysis, let's start with the summary of your existing tax levy for debt service. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. You're going to hear me coughing a lot, so my apologies. So we'll kind of work our way across this spreadsheet from left to right. On the far left-hand side is your total existing principal and interest payments for debt that's outstanding, all existing general obligation debt of the city. In its debt service fund, the city typically budgets some expenses related to management of your general obligation debt. And then the city budgets several non-levy revenue sources to help repay some of that debt. So revenue from TID District Number 4 for debt that was issued for TID 4 projects, revenue from the sewer utility for sewer projects, and then special assessments, and then some interest income. So for the 2024 budget, your levy for debt service was $927,280. And then you'll see under that net tax levy column, just on existing debt, your levy starts to decline. So when we look at the impact of new projects, there is some room to add in, some additional projects since your debt levy is decreasing a little bit from 24 to 25. And then we show what the tax rate is per thousand of value. So for a $250,000 home, for example, in 2024, that home paid about $382 per year for taxes just for debt service. So this just kind of shows where we're beginning in terms of your existing debt obligations that are already outstanding. Next, on the next page, projects funded with general obligation debt. This is a listing of all the projects that would be funded with general obligation debt from 2024 all the way out through 2029. We've combined the 2024 and 2025 projects into one financing proposed to occur yet this year. So in the column heading under projects, that's the general project description. In the repayment and term column, it shows the revenue source that's going to be pledged to repay the debt. So the levy is for general city projects, stormwater, for stormwater projects, that'll be levied for as well. TID 7 supported by TID 7 revenues, and then we have sewer revenues supporting some of the debt as well. And then the years indicates the number of years that the debt is amortized for each project. So for 2024, we're looking at funding just under $4.9 million of projects. And then for planning purposes, we've incorporated projects out through 2029. So when we look at the multi-year model, it's really incorporating all of these projects that are identified on this list. We'll talk about the bulk of the utilities separately. The next page is kind of the estimated debt service for the 2024 notes. We kind of break it down again by project type and repayment source. So the projects are kind of amortized based on the useful life of the asset. Some of your larger projects are amortized over 20 years. A lot of your equipment and other assets are amortized over a shorter period. And that extends on to the next page that just again shows the other debt related to the stormwater projects, TID 7, and then some of the levy projects that are amortized over 5 years. So over the full 20 years of this note issue, the principal amount is estimated at $4,990,000. The total principal and interest is estimated at $6,274,038. So that's based off of estimated interest rates to fund the 2024 and 2025 projects. The next page, since we put this together last week, kind of got some clarification from the city. There was a utility truck that was purchased by the utilities. There was that could have been secured through a local bank loan. Instead, we're going to include it in these notes because the interest rate is more attractive, and we'll amortize it over 3 years. So we're not going to be paying off the existing loan. We're just going to include the truck in this loan. So we'll adjust that to account for it, but it won't materially change our analysis. So the next page is the tax impact analysis. This brings forth your existing debt and then the estimated debt service for projects from 2024 through 2029. So on the far left-hand column, that's your existing levy for debt service. That's what we covered a couple slides ago. That's what you're levying now for your debt service payments that are already outstanding. Then we estimate principal and interest payments for financings from 2024 through 2029. And then in the abatements column, we show non-levy revenue sources that would repay some of this new debt, revenue from the sewer utility, water and electric utility, and then TID District number 7. So then in the column labeled debt service levy, total net debt service levy, that shows what your projected levy would be for existing debt and all of the debt service to fund projects from 2024 through 2029. So you'll see in that levy change from prior year, if all the projects that are identified in the CIP from 24 through 29 are funded, the impact to the levy would be about $150,000 increase per year for debt service for the levy. So we structured the debt so you'd have a very consistent levy change year over year for budgetary purposes. So in that far right-hand column, it shows how much additional taxes would be paid for a home of $250,000 per year for all of the new debt from 2024 through 2029. So again, this kind of takes the full CIP as it exists today, funds everything. The impact, at least to the levy portion of the budget, would be a $150,000 per year increase for the debt service levy. So before I continue, any questions so far? It's all riveting, right? So next, I mentioned the general obligation debt limit. So this is statutory. So the amount of general obligation debt principal that you can have outstanding cannot exceed 5% of the city's total equalized or market value. So at the end of 2024, just based on your existing debt profile, you'd only have utilized about 27% of your debt limit. If we add in the proposed notes for the 24 and 25 projects, that would take you to about 42% of your debt limit. You would still have $18.6 million of legal borrowing capacity remaining. And even with full funding of all the projects identified in the CIP out through 2029, at least those funded on a general obligation basis, you'd be at about 45% of your debt limit. So certainly the fact that you're under 50% of utilization of your debt limit's a very strong position to be in. So really from a borrowing capacity perspective, we're leaving room for other projects that may not yet be incorporated into your capital plan, and gives you some flexibility going forward. Next, we're going to talk about the utility and the revenue bonds, so that second form of debt that I mentioned. So again, revenue bonds, the main reason they are utilized is that there's no limit on the amount of revenue debt you can legally issue, but just like any debt issue, you have to make sure you have sufficient revenues to repay the debt. So the city has revenue debt outstanding presently. There's revenue debt outstanding for the water and electric utility, where you're pledging water and electric revenues to repay the debt. And then there's debt outstanding out for the sewer utility, where you're pledging sewer utility to repay the debt. So anytime you issue additional revenue bonds that would also require a pledge of that utility revenue, there's what's called a bond covenant with those existing bonds outstanding called the additional bonds test. And what that means is if you issue more debt, you need to be able to demonstrate that those revenues that you're pledging are going to be at least 1.25 times higher than your debt service payments. So using the sewer utility, for example, once you pay all the operational expenses of the sewer utility, those net revenues need to be 1.25 times higher than your debt service payments, both for your existing revenue debt and any new bonds that you're issuing. For revenue debt, if you cannot meet that coverage requirement at the time you're issuing the debt, you legally can't issue the bonds. So it's really kind of an ongoing requirement to make sure that your revenues are sufficient to cover your existing debt, but also are sufficient to issue new debt. Otherwise, you have to adjust rates accordingly. There's a second coverage ratio that we look at. It's not a legal requirement, but it's a best practice. So for the sewer utility, for example, they have revenue debt outstanding and a small portion of general obligation debt outstanding that they're also repaying. We'll combine the two to look at what's called an all-in coverage requirement, and we want to see if those net revenues of the sewer utility are at least equal to all of your debt service payments for the sewer utility. So not a legal requirement, but a best practice. So for the sewer capital plan, we list out kind of the lump sum project costs from 2025 through 2029, proposed to be funded with revenue debt. So totals about $19.6 million. So in terms of those coverage tests, on the next slide is, on the left-hand side is the sewer revenue debt coverage requirement. That needs to be at least 1.25 to legally sell more debt. So when we look at your net revenues from 2023 and we add in all the proposed debt from 2025 through 2029 projects, your coverage ratio is under 1. So what that tells us is the existing revenues are not sufficient to issue more revenue debt on the sewer utility side. So to issue more revenue debt, you're going to have to look at adjusting your sewer rates because otherwise you legally can't issue additional revenue debt. If we look at that all-in coverage, that kind of incorporates the general obligation debt and existing and proposed revenue debt, that coverage is under 1 as well. So this is kind of a high-level look at kind of the sufficiency of your existing sewer utility revenue to support additional debt at the levels that are identified in the CIP. This kind of shows clearly rate adjustments are going to be necessary to fund the level of capital investment that's been identified in the CIP at this time.
Greg, can I jump in real
Yes.
quick? I know Molly and Mayor Hammer have both heard this at the utility commission meetings, but to this point, a lot of the CIP work that the utility has done is really, these are the needs. And I've cautioned the utility director to take this 5-year plan and make it a 10 to 15-year plan. So 2 things. The rate, we do need to look at rates, but we also need to look at how we stretch this work out. And I know that that'll be starting to be discussed with the utility commission more on Thursday night. So I don't necessarily want to instill panic as you look at this chart, knowing that there is work needed at the wastewater treatment plant. There's no doubt. We need to prioritize that work and put it in a more manageable program moving forward. But I think this is it's great to have this information and show that need and what it would take to accomplish, but this is probably not reality for the sewer at this time.
Yeah, those are good points. I think I echo what Matt says. It really just shows that level of capital investment in a 5-year window just really isn't likely financially feasible. So just kind of, as Matt said, kind of an opportunity to kind of reprioritize and shift. But, you don't know until you kind of run the numbers. On the water and electric side, really kind of a similar story. So we have identified kind of water and electric projects. When the debt is sold, we sell it with what's called a combined pledge. Water and electric revenues are pledged to repay all of the debt service, but we typically look at each revenue stream independently to make sure water can cover water, electric can cover electric. And when we kind of look at the coverage ratios, did the same additional bonds test metrics, and, a similar story, just kind of shows that existing net revenue stream isn't going to reach the required coverage levels for each of the utilities independently to kind of cover the debt. So it's kind of a similar story, just kind of shows that, likely some capital investment needs to be scaled back a little bit, like we still need to look at rates. But, again, similar to sewer, just kind of says this level of investment in a 5-year window, isn't going to be supported by the present net revenues of the utility. So the charts for the water and the electric utility just kind of prove that out. So it's, similar story to what Matt said on the sewer side, just kind of relooking at kind of priorities and phasing of projects. So, that we can certainly kind of relook at this as we kind of look at those adjustments. But again, this just kind of shows that existing revenue stream wouldn't satisfy that additional bonds test. So to summarize kind of everything I've said up until this point, again, on the levy for the debt service, that's projected to increase by about $150,000 per year from 2025 to 2029 if everything was funded. The general obligation debt capacity reaches 45%, which is a comfortable margin. And then on the sewer and the water and electric utility, again, would need to see revenues increase to support additional revenue debt, but that can also be offset by kind of adjustments and phasings of projects. So in terms of where we're at in this process, this is really intended for informational purposes. As I mentioned, really the only financing that's contemplated this year is a general obligation financing, which would fund 24 and 25 projects. The timeline we've kind of discussed with staff is to bring that back. A resolution's the first step for the Common Council to kind of start the debt issuance process. If you're comfortable doing so, we could bring that back in 2 weeks. That would kind of formally start the debt issuance process. We would target selling the debt at your first meeting in December. That's the date that the bonds or the notes would be priced. We present the final interest rates for award that evening, and then the city would receive the funds before the end of the fiscal year. So that's kind of the timeline we've discussed. I'll pause here, see if there's questions, allow staff to interject other comments, but I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
I think the biggest thing, just to chime in on the water and electric, is the future of Water Plant 1 and the potential of replacing that, and that's been an ongoing discussion. There's a lot more discussion that would occur there. What we are hopeful is that there would be several grant sources to help offset some of that expense too. Obviously, we're very, very, very preliminary at this point in that process, but that is the biggest number there in both some upgrades that have to happen in Water Plant 2 prior to that process, as well as the decommissioning of 1 and the potential of adding a new water plant that will be a much larger discussion in the future. But again, the takeaway, as we've talked about a lot, is we've mapped out where we need to be. It's how we get there, how many years we stretch that over, but we've identified a lot of both within the city-funded departments as well as the utility of the need. Now it's how do we put the puzzle pieces together to get where we all want to end up. So.
Alder Lawson.
When you're evaluating the requirement on the ratio, does each individual year have to meet that requirement of the payback period?
That's correct. It's that coverage ratio has to be met every year. So even if you don't issue new debt, you still on an annual basis need to make sure that the net revenues of the utility meet those coverage requirements. So that's an obligation just for your existing debt that's already outstanding.
Other questions? Okay, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time tonight. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the capital improvements plan 2025 through 2029. Matt?
I'm going to start with kind of how we started this last time. Crystal and I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation that'll kind of guide us through where we're at, where we're headed, and then we can get into the specifics of both the CIP and then move on to the operating budget. So our remaining timeline, October 15th, that's tonight, we're considering the proposed budget. That should be 2025 budget, but we'll move on accordingly. In 2 weeks, on October 29th, again, a reminder, we've moved the November 5th council meeting to October 29th to avoid Election Day. And we have our public budget hearing set for that evening. If all is well tonight and again goes well on the 29th, we won't need a November 12th meeting, but if there are changes, are corrections, we do have the flexibility of adding that November 12th meeting to address anything that we need with the budget. One of the questions that I've heard, and I know some of you have heard, is, well, assessments have went up. Now what are you going to do with that additional money? And I just kind of want to clarify that just because assessed values increase, that doesn't necessitate a tax increase. It's really, as this document will explain, the assessment's 1/3 of the information used to calculate your tax bill. The other 2/3 are the tax rate and the tax levy, and they all work together kind of like a teeter-totter. They have to balance to total the amount of taxes. So if the levy would stay the same this year as it was last year, and all assessments across the city go up, the tax rate would go down to compensate. What we're seeing, the reason we're seeing an increase is because we're increasing the amount of money we're saying it's going to take to operate the city next year. So that's why taxes are going up. It's not necessarily tied to assessment. The assessment helped determine each property owner's responsibility for taxes, but just because your assessment goes up doesn't mean necessarily that taxes would go up each year. Also, that, we're just one piece of that taxing puzzle. There are other entities that set a tax rate and a mill that impact everyone as well. So where we are at, we're looking at a total levy increase of just over 9%. But you're seeing a general fund actual decrease of just a very minimal decrease. The changes that are affecting this, so our payroll, 4% to our sworn officers, 3% to other city staff, is a total to this of just over $120,000. We've added the zoning rewrite and we've stretched that over 2 years. So a $75,000 commitment in 2025 will require a $75,000 commitment in 2026. As Greg just explained, there'll be an increase in debt service, both in principal and interest payments, that's just over $200,000. Because our levy increases, the percentages to both the library and cemetery increase, as well as we're increasing our commitment to the aquatic center to cover their costs. You're also seeing some decrease in capital projects and how those are budgeted. You're seeing a increase in shared revenue and state aids. There's an increase in our budgeted revenue for services and reimbursements. And there's an increase, and these are positive. When I say increase, they're positives that are actually lowering that levy amount in program fees, charges, and grants. So the net impact on the budget is $277,519. And so then the total increased levy for all changes in the budget is $342,458. Anything more you want to say?
You said it.
All right. Capital projects, which we'll get into in more specifics in a minute, are listed here. The chart of our general obligation debt, you see the state debt limit is the top line. The middle line is our city policy limit, and our actual city geo debt is the blue line at the bottom. Property values without the TIF factored in, you're seeing our assessed value of just over 644 million and our equalized value of just over 646 million. This is the estimated property tax rate, the levy of $6.39 with the estimated total levy of $17.90. And what does that mean on a tax bill? Again, this is our average assessed value property, which is at, our average assessed value is $262,700. That homeowner will see an increase in taxes estimated on the city portion of $265.71. Crystal's all.
Which is lower than.
Lower than we
Lower we had.
projected 2 weeks ago by about $100. You're also seeing Crystal's put an estimate together based on your overall tax bill. Again, there's a lot of estimating and projecting there based on historical data.
Yes.
Tax bill breakdown, kind of showing where those dollars go. I don't know, I think this got included and maybe not updated. Did you update these numbers?
I did.
Oh, so these are the updated numbers. Awesome. So you kind of see in how the average assessed value, what the breakdown looks like for that taxpayer and where those funds go. Yeah. So that average assessed taxpayer is paying just under $1,700 in city taxes, and you see the breakdown from each department of how that impacts and what you're paying for. Any questions on any of this information? If not, we'll go into the CIP projects. So there's two documents. I want to focus on the 2025 document that was in your packets. And so what this lists out are all the 2025 projects. You heard Greg talk about a combined 2024-2025 borrowing. The 2024 projects would have been the projects that were approved previously in last year's budget and planned for borrowing this year. We haven't done that yet. And by combining, Ellers feels that we'll be more competitive in our issuance. So these have been previously talked about. A new one is the fiber network build out. You may remember we've applied for a state grant. The overall estimated build out of our fiber network is estimated at $400,000. The grant request was capped at $100,000. We're looking at $50,000 over 4 years, if I remember correctly, with the first amount being $50,000. We want to do this in phases and prioritize connecting all of our city buildings via fiber network that will have a long-term impact in reducing our phone and internet costs in terms of operating budget. There's HVAC work needed at City Hall. That's $10,000 amount. There's a roof replacement project at the cemetery for $15,000. There's a command truck for the fire department that's $65,500, and an ADA compliance ramp for the building estimated at $25,000. Scout cabin at Fireman's Park. This is soffit fascia work as well as a structural analysis or a structural plan for the floor. That, those are estimated at $13,700. You'll note in 2026, we plan to do HVAC work at the pavilion. And we have to first get state plan review, and that's estimated at $5,000 to do next year in anticipation of that project. We've worked with Enerpac, who will be donating funds for a park shelter. The city portion of the work would be achieving ADA compliance and addressing some parking issues at that park. There is the previously discussed pickleball project. We'd be contributing $36,000 towards that. Additionally, fundraised $45,000 to complete that project. The squad vehicle, police department, $85,000. Replacing a furnace at the fire department, $55,000. In Public Works, replacing a pickup truck for $35,000. A streets project, which is Brookside, Avalon to the cul-de-sac at $310,000. I've listed Ludington, that's in the 2024 previously approved projects. That's a DOT state project that we have a local match to. Replacing a backhoe for Public Works, a heater for the Public Works shop, pedestrian crossing lights at each of the school sites, replacing a barricade shed. The community center roof is $154,000. Replacing repairing concrete near the slide at the aquatic center, it's $23,000. Fireman's Park Stormwater Project is proposed to be in TID 7. That's $785,000. And there is a stormwater component to the Brookside project for an additional $40,000. So those are the projects that we would be looking to borrow for in that 2025 borrowing. Happy to answer.
The 2024.
2024 borrowing, correct, where we'll be borrowing for both the 2024 and 2025 projects. Any questions, clarification?
Alder Rostad?
There's a few questions. So under Public Works, a 3/4 ton pickup truck's listed for $35,000. Is that close to reasonable for a 3/4 ton pickup?
My understanding is that everything was put together with estimates from providers, they're going off of the information available.
Okay. And then for the police department.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it also, Crystal will chime in here, but that also includes the trade-in of the vehicle that it's replacing. So there's an offset there. So we know it's gonna be more than 35,
I
but
just
there's,
didn't have all the things, so we netted it.
yeah.
So how are we trading in though in the policies to go to surplus?
No, you can approve the trade-in, you don't have to go to surplus when you're using it as a trade-in.
I thought if we were getting rid of a city vehicle, it had to go to another department if they needed it or
No, the
surplus.
council we can trade them in, the council just would approve it that way, and we won't know that until we go to look to purchase the vehicle next year.
Okay.
So it would either go to surplus, or you could approve it to be traded in.
Okay.
Looking at the value that they're gonna be offering.
And then the police got 85,000 in for the 25 squad, but in the packet we have a purchase price of 45 and some change, so a difference of 39,610.50.
All the equipment and outfitting is included in this number.
There's $40,000 in equipment.
Did it come in lower than you had anticipated?
40,000 for the flip, squad camera is 6,200, squad computer is 5,000.
That's a 25, so none of your stuff will marry over.
In a radio, radio is 6,200.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a pretty accurate number.
And then the only other question I have is the command vehicle for 65.5. It's been brought to my attention again that this was a donated vehicle. I don't know if there's anything that says we have to provide a command vehicle. I know Enbridge still offers the donation that they offer. Has everything been exhausted that we're just gonna go buy?
I can't answer all those questions. I know that Chief at the last meeting discussed the problems that they're having with the current command truck and why they moved this truck ahead in the schedule, because initially there was another vehicle that they were looking to replace, and based on the maintenance and repairs they were experiencing with this vehicle, they moved this one up into 25 and flipped with the vehicle for 26.
I just have a hard time swallowing. The city have to swallow 65.5 when the city just bought a pickup last year for this fire department. And this truck goes on every call of being the command vehicle. I have an issue. I don't think it's right that the city has to front the whole bill. That's just my belief.
It's not in the contract.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment. There's just nothing in our contract that allows us to go and address that with the other groups.
The contract is 1 more year.
And do we have to replace a vehicle though? I mean, we're not obligated to replace a donated vehicle, correct?
I don't get the question.
I think, in theory, no. The question is from the fire department, unfortunately, their chief isn't here to answer this, but if they don't have that vehicle, what does that mean to their operations?
I think that's the question. Is that saying you're going to go back and look into that and get that information?
And again, we have time to do that. There's still 2 more opportunities for the council to weigh in on any of these projects. And the first and most easy is when we go to borrow, of, removing a project from the borrowing. The second is, even if we borrow that money, a purchase agreement has to come forward for the council to approve. So even if this money is included in our borrowing, as we've discussed, if a project doesn't move forward, we can carry those funds forward to the next capital project year and reduce the amount we have to borrow that year by the amount that we're carrying over.
Did you have more questions, Alder Rossett? Okay. Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm really not concerned about the 35,000 for the 3/4 ton pickup. That's an incredibly good deal. I'm very surprised. I can't compare us needing to purchase a vehicle compared to one that was given for free. I mean, I very much appreciated that we had been gifted the truck in the past. I would love to ask to see if there's anything else in the program available, but I'm very comfortable going forward with the 35,000 included.
Other questions? Okay. Matt, you said you wanted to roll right into operating budget, or do you need more information from us on?
No,
this?
I mean, we'll continue to gather answers to some of these questions and be able to share updates next, in 2 weeks.
Okay. Then the next item is discussion of the 2025 operating budget.
Again, we gave the summary of the operating budget. There have been some minor tweaks and updated information that's changed. The overall number, obviously, it's decreased in our favor. I'm going to anticipate, and Crystal will confirm, that some of these numbers will change a little bit over the next 2 weeks, correct?
Very few.
Very few, but there's still probably some state numbers that we're waiting on, or have we gotten everything in?
I believe I've got everything.
So I can answer any specific questions in terms of the operating budget, can highlight anything that you specifically want me to highlight, but we're getting really close and feeling comfortable with where things are at with the operating budget.
They're all in.
Alder Lawson?
So the $30,000 for, I think it was like a city hall evaluation got removed, right?
So that was in capital, and that has been removed. We actually allocated that, moved it to the pickleball project.
And that became even a little bit more than that, right? I think we just saw that was a slightly higher number than 30.
There was already
There
some
was-
budget in there.
Yeah, there was already 6,000 allocated, and so we moved the 30 from that city hall project to the pickleball courts.
Alder Finkler?
So first I have a question about like the process we're gonna go through and review this budget. Do we really just wanna blanket open up for questions, or do we wanna go at least like page by page and talk about any changes, differences? I mean, I guess we have two folks here that are new to the budgeting process, and I think it's only fair for them to do a little bit more detail than, leaving them out in the wind, and also like having people hop around. Like I have questions noted on the pages, and having people like hop around, it might not be very organized. So I'm just trying to figure out how we want to go about this in the most organized fashion.
What's your suggestion?
And we can go whichever way you want. It's gonna be very, again, I wish I could tell you that there's a bunch of inflated numbers here and things to look at. Everyone has based their budgets off of the information at hand, the historical look at the past 3 years, noting trends, estimate. Crystal does a great job of building a backbone of this Excel document. What you see is one page out of how many different sheets are in that Excel document?
25.
Yeah, and so like payroll, if we go and change a percentage for an increase, or if we look at the benefit analysis in terms of insurance changes, that all calculates out and pushes out to this main document. So going through line by line, we can go through, but a lot of it is just data that's created by that Excel document, based on a lot of different factors and a lot of different information that I'm sure Crystal would love to explain.
Well, the process we followed this year was the same as last year, where my budget workbook is linked to each department. Each department's worksheet would be, I give them their worksheets and they bring them back, and then I do a first initial review and meet with them. Kind of stuck that in the middle because we were going to go straight to working with Matt and the mayor to do some reviews. Well, so we did, and I did an initial review with the directors on their specific area of budget. We looked at their expense line items, and we also looked at any revenues that they have an impact on. And then when each of those were ready, then all of those went as separate packets to an administrative overview. So first is my scrutiny, then is Matt and the mayor's scrutiny on review, and then discussing with each department. At those meetings is where things that looked a little odd or different, or they wanted to explain, is explainable. You don't have what I have, but I have a worksheet that has detailed notes that I keep, and I've had the departments give me their notes so we can keep them in the budget workbook. That way, if you do have a question on a single line, it's easier for us to have an answer. So once those reviews are complete, then I make any changes in the workbook so that I can print this draft.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the basic steps of the process that we did. And then additionally, then is the work for me compiling debt and revenue information that comes in, all the other little things that are administrative that don't go through a department. So those are done by me and Matt.
Are there specific questions on anything related to revenues? Or
Have
are all the
one.
questions on
Well, you have it fund
expenses?
by fund, so we could just go fund by fund.
I only
Yes,
have
please.
one on revenue.
I would just like to go one by one, being new, because I took the amended budget to the budget that was presented tonight, and I see some money was just moved. So just being new to it, I just like an understanding of maybe like a flip-flop, and I've seen some of it's just a flip-flop of money to a different fund. So I mean, it's probably easy explanations, but.
And the changes from last time to this time weren't just moving money, it was to the point where you got a draft before I was really finished.
Okay.
So, things were fixed and cleared up and isolated better and make sure that things are in the right accounts. So if you have something you want to discuss there, these are the numbers that I prefer us to focus on. That's what we have here.
No, it's on tonight's budget, yeah.
Okay.
But I would just like to go line by line, I guess.
Line by line, or, I mean, page, go
Page by
page by
page.
page, and if
Yeah.
you got a question on that. So starting with, say, the first page
Page
would be
61.
61.
Yeah, and I just want to call out real quick, because I don't want you all to take this personal. It's literally our jobs to review this and be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. This is nothing personal. I think you guys have done an amazing job with the budget and have really cleaned it up. We just have to do our job too.
So we're gonna go page by page, and if anybody's got any questions on anything, so.
So what you're looking at first, the first few pages are the general funds revenues. Our biggest dollars of which do come from the tax levy, which is on your first line, and then through state aids. So can you guys see the number on the left of your page on these? Because I did move that page numbering. Okay, yeah. It's, because I don't have your big number, I just have my number. I'm on page 1 of 43. Oh, good, you can see it. So on page 1 of 43, does anyone have a specific question that you, or a specific account you'd like to go over?
So that was like the first one I found. It's like the tax levy, the local tax levy changed. So what? How does that?
That's calculated based on revenues minus expenses without the tax levy.
Okay.
So that's like your plug number.
Okay.
It's going to shift. Every time you make a change in your
That
general fund
shifts.
budget, it's going to move it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's why you see a little zero. Oh, you don't see it. I have it in my notes. I have a little number at the top of my sheet that's a working number. And if I make a change and I don't remember to change the levy number up there, it tells me I have a difference. So I can keep that number up to date every time I make a change. So on the second page, let's see, permitting, yep, down on the bottom of the first page, those are licenses, permits, and fees. And those are coming from, mainly through the administrative department, but we do have some small ones coming through. Your building permits, rezoning, and public works fees. The court is closed, but we still have some residual tickets out there that people are court-ordered payments, and we have them all in debt collections now. So that's the money that it costs us to keep a software that we are required to have. You'll find that in the expenses, but this is SDC's debt collection activity that you'll be seeing till I don't know, that could go on a really long time, but. All right, so the second page, public charges for services. These are specifically from the fee schedule. These are charges that departments and the administration are able to charge to the public. And then community center and recreation fees, that's most of your activity, your public activity fees. And then we have all the miscellaneous revenues next. And I'm on page 3. Oh, sorry, you're going to have to speak up. I'm not looking up.
On page
Sorry.
3.
Which page?
Page 3,
Okay,
the pavilion rental.
Yes.
So, oh, good, Amy Jo's back. 2023 actuals show 65,000. But then this year, we're only projected to hit 52,000, yet 2025, we're projecting 70. Do we think that's realistic? Is there a reason for the dip? And
yeah. Amy Jo, correct me if you're wrong, but we upped it from 2023 because this year's activity had several outages of things that happened that they couldn't, there was a lot of cancellations. So the rentals on the pavilion, we increased it higher than what we took in this year.
We did, because
we
we're going
upped it
to,
from
we'll
the
do
old
the fee schedule,
2023
we're
budget.
implementing a new fee schedule. So that's gonna, we think will
Oh,
generate.
that's part of the
That's
increase?
part of it.
Okay.
That was a big thing,
And there was some rainouts this year.
correct.
Okay. Okay, any more specific questions or thoughts you're having? You want some clarification on page 3? Okay. Okay, so on page 4, let's see, I have a little sheet. Oh, where's the law? Okay, page 4 at the very top, just so if anybody doesn't know, this number of 552,500, that's carry forward from prior year, and it does include the 500 that was additionally budgeted for last year. So for me to keep it in the budget, we're just keeping it the same as this year. So that's why there's an additional 500,000 there, plus the 500 in the contingency. So we're keeping the 2 years' budgets consistent. It didn't increase, that 500,000 did not increase the levy. That's the point I'm trying to make. We're carrying it forward. And then there were some other funds that didn't get used this year that we're carrying forward. And one specifically is, it's in one of the expense accounts for public services other, and that was part of the money that we were going to use to fund an administrative study this year. That did not get used. That's being carried forward. And I had a note that, oh, I took it off there. That money I'm carrying forward is just to offset this year's budget because we had so many other increases. This is one of the ways I was able to use a netting to keep our levy a little bit down. And then our Public Works manager was a position that we did not fill and do not anticipate filling. So with the Public Works labor adjustments that we did this year, and with the increases for next year, I'm carrying over 35,000 of that to help with this year's budget.
Which page are you on now? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Which page are you on now?
She's
I'm still on 4.
explaining the
I'm still on
applied
the applied
surplus.
surplus.
The surplus, gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. And then one other significant note I'd like to point out is, if you go back to page 3, at the bottom, there's an amount that's a transfer from other funds of $37,500. The sidewalk program is in the general fund, and last year, $37,500 was budgeted for in capital projects. But since we're not doing it that way, I've been able to carry forward the money from capital projects back to the general fund to help support that program.
Alder Finkler, did you have a question?
On page 4, so when she's done. with
Okay,
page 4.
yep, we can move on. Just wanted to explain those things in case anyone didn't understand those accounts.
Yep.
Okay. All right, the next section, these are all pretty straightforward. You've got your council, the court that I spoke about, the small expenses we have there. The next item of note is HLPC. They were working on a budget with with Mike over there. And the amount that was being budgeted for this area, we felt that it was best, since it's all going through Mike, it really is best to be in his purview. So as requested at the last meeting, I did make a separate line item under planner, which is on the next page.
This is at my direction, and it's really about
It was an
not-
idea, yeah.
It's really not having a committee with a budget. It's really putting that under a department and a staff. So those funds are listed now. Is it operating supplies, historic preservation, HLPC, something to that effect? It still signifies it, but it's not creating a precedent where each committee is now going to get a budget.
And that is on the top of page 6. So it's all still in the general funds, but it's not going to be in the same accounts. So these accounts over time will come off of the budget presentation.
So on page 5, there's.
Wait, I thought we were on 4.
Yep, we're still on 4.
Oh.
Oh, go
Okay.
ahead.
Nope, you can keep going on 4. When you're done, I'll ask my question.
Nope, just pointing out again, there's the 500,000 contingency that we're carrying forward from the 2024 budget amendment. Then these are just typical expenses we have every year under code codifications, dues that are administrative. Then the mayor's section. And then continuing on to page 5.
All right, my question on page 4 for both.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yep, city council salary and mayor salary. It doesn't like go up like increase, decrease percentage-wise, but it almost doubles for both. I'm really confused. Like, the actual from 2023 is 11,000 for city council salary, and projected for 24 is 24,400. And like the same weird numbers for mayor too.
My guess is that at some point in 2023, there was a direction by the council to increase compensation for the council and mayor.
Not,
Actually, I believe the last time that happened was in 2021.
Yeah, they're old.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was here and
So
I
the
didn't get a
mayor
raise.
the mayor one down here didn't change. It's 10-2, 10-2, 10-2.
But in 2023, actual and budget for the mayor was like 4,500 and 4,700, and then it jumps up to like, it will be 10-2,
Yeah, that one
10-2.
did change, but and so did the council. Yeah,
Yeah.
they both did. They changed at the end. It was already scheduled for that change, and then when the election occurred, it went to the different dollars. I don't remember how that
I was on
worked.
council wasn't I on council all year last year? Like,
In
am I
2020
crazy? Because
Yeah.
I don't remember changes in any pay.
The last time we voted on that, I abstained from it, was in 2021. We have not discussed
thought it was a
raising
schedule.
council salaries since then.
Because your salaries are still the same.
Right. The check has stayed the same, just I think the numbers in here,
No, I
something is
thought-
weird.
No, something happened in 2023. I can go back and find the records, but
Not that I recall. We all getting back pay? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the funds have
No,
been
I
spent. I mean, it's at
Right.
18.9 in August, so the 24.4 makes sense for end of year.
Right, but I'm looking comparing 2023 and
I
2024.
understand.
Yeah.
yeah. But I will definitely put that on my list to bring back and find out why my sheet has numbers that look odd.
Okay.
Okay, 2023.
Thank you.
The this one I don't understand. It doesn't change. Are you on the land?
What?
Are you on the land?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna pull up the payroll budget. Okay, council. Okay, I got those noted. Okay. Okay, I will review those and page 5? Okay.
Alder Lawson?
Okay, on page 5, under the administrator, the last line, employee engagement, that's budgeted for 10,000 for next year. What is employee engagement?
Employee engagement is effort of HR to basically improve employee morale. This is where the annual Christmas party is funded out of, incentive programs, things like that. That's where there's been a request to increase that amount. I believe in addition to the Christmas party, they're planning another staff outing, a larger outing in the summer. Be available for all city employees.
And I want a shirt.
And Crystal wants a shirt. If we were to do city staff issued clothing, an item.
We're gonna take it out of here.
Yeah.
We didn't tell staff yet, though.
Any other questions on page 5?
Again, one of the big questions always is elections. That's based off of a quieter year next year, knock on wood, for elections and number of elections. I believe there's only 2 that we would host in 2025.
So on the top of page 6, you'll notice there's the line item. We did separate it out, as Henry requested last time. Matt conceded.
All good.
Alder
All
Finkler,
good.
did you have a question?
On page 6, I don't know how we want to do this. If Crystal, you
Go
want to
ahead.
go through your overview of the page first, then we ask questions, or like, I'm not sure, so I can
No,
patiently
you can
wait
ask
until
your
you're done.
questions. The media area, that's David's payroll expenses less, this is his payroll expenses. We do recoup some of that from tourism and, can't think. Cable and tourism, but that comes in a revenue line item. Our assessor contract, we have a state manufacturing fee, we pay for assessments there. Then we have our treasurer's section. Auditing attorney's fees come next. And then we have Start City Hall on the bottom of the page. Ryan, did you have a question?
Molly did first, that's fine.
Okay,
Do we have a deputy treasurer?
yes.
Oh, we do?
Ally?
Oh, I didn't know that. I feel like a jerk not knowing that.
Treasurer's office is 2, clerks is 1.
Oh, okay. And then, I had a question from multiple constituents actually on attorney fees. And I know this question has come up numerous times before, but, as much as we love your company, Attorney Johnson, I'm not sure, like, is it typical to have a lawyer at every single city council meeting? I have heard that is not the case in other cities, and I am not an expert in this. I am just asking the question.
Can I ask what other cities?
I am not an expert in the question. I just have gotten questions about this and that it's not typical. I can ask further, but,
30 years of going to city council meetings, I've never been in one without a city attorney.
Me either.
okay. Okay,
Wow.
okay.
Only when they're out of town.
Then there's a replacement usually.
Okay.
Wow.
Alder Austin?
Under the assessor, it says year-to-date, is 33,111, or 17, but we're budgeted 18.5, but
Yeah,
we're not.
they budgeted incorrectly last year. The assessment, I guess, was they started planning for it back in 2022, and 2023, they charged charges, but they hadn't started it. So when I was writing the 2024 budget, no one told me.
Okay.
But
So
I think
it was missed.
the issue here is we need to clean up our projected and end of year number for this, because that's going to change.
Oh, the projected
Yeah.
one, yeah. That was,
Yeah, 'cause as
that was an
yeah.
old number. That one just never got changed, but it is 33.
Yep.
That's for the reassessment.
Reevaluation.
The reevaluation, correct.
Thank you.
Alder Finkler?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I got that one. I'll fix that.
Any other questions on page 6? Okay. Page 7? Any questions on page 7?
It's not a number question, but like PD, like there's captain positions or like line items. Is there a reason we don't ever delete lines out of the budget if they're not filled? Or I don't know if we've ever had a captain.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
Chad Wilkie
Okay.
was the captain, yes.
Yeah, and I'm reluctant, you'll find that in here for now, because I'm reluctant to delete a line or hide a line from my workbook master budget, because I use this to do reviews monthly, weekly. I look stuff up in here all the time, because it's got all my data in here. And if someone codes something to a wrong account, I'm not gonna find it if I don't have my detailed sheets.
Okay.
So there are you'll see several lines in here. Slowly, am eliminating some, but I have to do it in Cassell also, so that someone can't code to it. So right now, you're stuck with my blank
No, that's
lines.
fine. It was just a question.
Helps me keep track.
Any other questions on page 7? Okay, page 8. Any questions? Alder Lawson?
Okay, so police department patrol salary, it looks like we're kind of consistent with 2024. Are we not anticipating filling any of the openings that we have?
I've worked on trying to get some of it broken out correctly into salary, overtime, and part-time. So you'll see some of the shift of that moving forward. And overall, as I see it, everything's in the right place.
Okay, so
And this budget is based on being fully staffed.
it's, okay, perfect. The other question I had is second to last line on that page. The
The ammo?
field services technology for 34,000.
Chief, this is where we're replacing some equipment.
Yeah. We have 2 squad videos, 2 computers, 2 tasers, and a program license fee that are going to be coming out of that this year.
Okay,
Any other questions on page 8? Okay, page 9. Questions?
School crossing, is that funded also through the schools, or is that strictly?
No, this is all.
So the city
our
pays the whole thing?
Crossing guards.
Every city that I'm aware of.
Really? Should the schools be paying towards that? Because you wouldn't need a school crossing guard if you didn't have schools.
You're paying for it with your taxes.
Well,
No.
It's logical, right?
I'm just asking a question, so, out of curiosity, so.
Alder Ostad?
Yeah, so I have a question on page, 9, and then 11, I noticed we cut some money out of fire's custodial service, like $1,300.
All right, where are you to start with?
On page 9, line
195.
195.
Yeah, his hours are running through the payroll workbook.
Just something we need to double check and make sure
Yeah.
that it's,
I'll mark it and double
Under
check that it's
custodial?
correct.
yeah.
Okay, and then I seen the same thing. We added money to custodian in parks on page 11. That's the same.
That's not a regular custodian, that's actual contracted cleaning agency.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're looking at cleaning it at a more intensive level. That's why it went up without Troy.
Thank
That's what
you.
they told me.
Alder Reed?
Thank you. I had a small question from Library Board, and it is regarding the crosswalk lights, and wondering if those have been purchased already, or if they are for the future.
They have been purchased. Had discussion this morning about that. We may not have gotten everything we needed, and so my suggestion this morning was, we've got some school crossing lights in the, or the notification lights of school zone in the capital budget, and that we purchase them and have a contractor install all of it together. I think the past plan was asking our staff to do some electrical work that we're not quite certified or trained for, and would prefer that we're making sure that we hired a qualified electrician when we're going to do that level of work. So the plan as it stands right now is 25, and getting that done as early in 25 as weather and conditions allow.
Thank you.
Which locations are those going in?
The school crossings are just replacing what's there. It's an outdated technology that we've lost the ability to manage them, so that when school changes, when they have an early release or get out at noon, we have to go and manually reset. I think there's 8 of them totally. So by purchasing new, we'd have updated software that we're able to manage and control. What Trina is referencing is there's a rapid rectangular flashing beacons that were identified for the library crosswalk that's right here. And we have a set of those that'll be installed as time allows.
Just at that location?
Correct.
Mayor, did you have another question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Any other questions on page 9? Okay, page 10? Alder Finkler?
Line 349, do we just give the last 3 digits?
Which section?
EMD,
Okay.
other expenses, it doubled. I have no idea what that.
Oh, most of the
it's
costs
based on
in
the
there are
projection.
internet and cable charges.
But if you look at the 24 projected, we've seen an increase. We budgeted 600. This is something we need to correct too, because
Oh, there's a
our
year-to-date.
projection is 1610. We should have we're basing this off of the projection in 24 of being 1610, of increasing this up to 1800 to cover what we're experiencing in expenses.
Okay.
And it is tied to those technology
Yeah,
components.
this doesn't need to be corrected.
Yeah, it's a little weird,
but
that line in
the
general.
600 here.
I can't change the budget.
Understood,
Oh,
understood. But that's why
that's
we're.
what we're changing. I
Correct.
get it. Oh,
Yep.
I thought you said those. Oh, error, I need to go check.
No.
Okay.
Alder Finkler?
I have one more question. It kind of spans multiple pages, but I don't know if it starts here, but this is when I actually noticed it on the next page, but now I just noticed it here too. Udi Dam overtime, and then I noticed there's like 100% increase in overtime over like snow and ice, buildings and grounds, like recreation assistant.
Oh, you
parks.
know what? Okay, so you mean because the number to the
Works.
right says 100 on it?
Yeah, well, we're adding in all this overtime.
It's all reflective
Increase.
of
I'm
what
just-
we've experienced in 2024. So it's
Yeah.
trying to adjust the budget to reflect what we've seen over the past year.
And also what you're seeing, that number 100, that's probably from last year's workbook because they had everything buried in wages and I've broken out overtime completely separate for tracking.
I think that's the answer to my
So
question.
the 100% is from last year's worksheet and never got the formula moved because you can't divide by 0 and you get an error and anyway.
Okay.
Yep, so I can find all those and fix them right quick.
Okay.
But the increase is what Matt was talking about,
Okay.
the increase in the budget part.
Alder Rossett?
And for UD Dam, the maintenance, the 7,000, I'm assuming that's for the inspection that we
We're
have to do?
Yep,
Okay.
Odd year on some and every 10th year.
yeah. Yeah, this is the 10th year,
This is the,
right?
on one, and then there's the every odd, the odd year, we have to add 4,000.
Alder Finkler?
Oh,
Alder Rossett?
Yeah, I guess I do have, just maybe to explain to the people at home, because I've been asked about it, and I've been asked at my current job, how does the EMS contract, how does it go down in price? I mean, this year, next year is minimal, but
Oh, I have a worksheet that calculates out that it's based on population. So if some other area's population goes up, everyone else's would go down.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And there's no change in contract for these 2 years. So the only distribution that happened was between communities.
The total contract requires a 2% increase each year, but that's
Except this year.
divided out by 10.
There was no increase this year. It was the same as last year.
'Cause
Last
that's
year's
an
was
every
the
other-
2%
okay,
increase. It was
alright.
every other year.
All right.
So it was just a redistribution, and that went to them for approval already.
Thank you.
Any other questions on page 10?
I got one more. The emergency management, that, for next year, we plan on filling that position?
Currently posted for
Okay.
applicants.
Okay.
Oh, the EMD.
Yep.
Any other questions on page 10? Page 11?
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I'm really sorry.
Nope, it's okay.
So we're gonna be hiring for EMD, and we're gonna pay that person a salary of $4,390.37.
So how that position works is it roughly equivalates to 4 hours a week. And the idea is that is a as-needed position. We were very fortunate in the past that we had someone qualified who was willing to work when we had an emergency situation that required them to do the work. The hope is that we're able to find someone willing to operate in that capacity moving forward. It may be a tough ask, but because we've had success with that, filling that in the past, we're going to see what our applicant pool looks like and where we can go with it.
Is this something that can be absorbed?
The problem with absorbing it is you're going to put someone in that role who would have already had a job to do in an emergency situation. Putting it on the police chief, putting it on the fire chief, putting it on me, there's all things that we're doing in those situations. And so the ideal situation would be is to find someone who can fill that role separately. But we may have to look at internal options if we aren't able to identify a candidate.
Okay.
Are we good to move on to page 11? Okay, page 11, any questions?
That's funny. I'm finding all these percents, Molly.
It's really weird.
Okay,
Definitely fix it for the final.
if there are no questions on page 11, moving on to page 12.
Oh, I just have a general question on, looking through all these different social security, retirement, health, vision, dental, blah, blah, blah. Did you guys ever figure out, how much, insurance, employer contribution?
Yeah, we have all that. in
Okay,
there.
so
Yeah, it's all still consistent with last year, and then it was increased to the new rates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was in your last one too. We were able to have that in early.
And our overall increase on benefits was, do you remember the percentage?
Oh, I can't off the top of my head. It was less than
Yeah.
7.
We'll get the exact number.
Yeah, it's in the workbook, which we'll
Yeah.
pull up. So.
I opened it.
Any questions
Page.
on page
I
13?
have to go pull last year's. It's in the work. It's in the payroll allocation workbook.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Did you want to know what the change is? We can figure it out.
No,
You wanted
I was
to make
just
sure it was
curious
in
if, yeah,
already.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
Because
okay.
it was a follow-up from last meeting.
Okay, yep.
Any questions on page 14? Okay, seeing none, any questions on page 15? Alder Finkler?
I'm gonna have the most random and weird question, but we've had changes in staff. The Japanese knotweed, that was a big deal last year. That's over by Tower Drive. That, it looks to me, because I live over there, that it's still being treated, but I just wanted to confirm that. And you might not have the answer for that now.
I'll add that to my
I totally
growing list of
understand that.
public works questions.
But seeing the weed control section just like
Yep.
pinged in my brain, so.
Any other questions on page 15? Okay. Page 16?
Oh, I guess I
Alder
can take
Finkler?
that one.
I have another question, and this is just because I don't probably know this process. I do see a lot throughout here, and I guess I didn't notice it this early up when I was looking at it at home earlier, is a lot of transfers to CDA fund in different areas within here. Can I just know what that is? I'm sure it's something that's normal, I just don't understand.
So are we on page 16?
Yeah,
The initial transfer to CDA is the council's decision on how much they would like to provide them funds for the year. It's
Okay.
basically coming from levy, but you cannot direct levy for CDA. Like we direct levy for pool and debt service and capital projects. We're doing direct levy pieces. But CDA, you can't direct levy, and this is the amount that you're transferring to them. CDA also gets money from the TIFs. So each of the TIFs, there's a standard percentage. Last year, the percentage was increased in the 2024 budget. This year, we kept the percentage of allocation the same. So each of the TIFs contributes to the CDA.
okay.
Any other questions on page 16? Okay, how about page 17?
There's the CDA.
Yeah, and so these enter the non-general fund. So we just went through the whole general fund, revenue and expenses. Now these go into, do you call these special or?
Funds.
They're just separate funds.
Yeah, see,
So you'll see
There's
revenues and
technical names for 'em,
expenditures
but
for each of these. So the first section here, our revenues for CDA shows where all their sources of revenue are, and then the expenditures for CDA.
So that's 17 and 18. Alder Rossad?
17, the CDA director, I'm assuming that's partially Mike's wage.
yes, he's allocated to CDA and the TIFs.
As well as planning in the general fund.
Yeah, his main payroll is as planner, CDA, and then portioned also to the TIFs.
Any other questions on 17 or 18? Okay, page 19.
So this is the library fund, both revenues and expenditures.
And they turned their budget in after the board meeting on 9/17.
Alder Finkler?
I just have a question on the, actually, I need a mulligan, which is kind of like a mulligan, but it's a mulligan. On the capital plan, on there it says HVAC annex, and seeing annex here, like, just pinged in my brain. When you said that's for city hall, did you really mean it was for the library, the annex? No? So we
No,
call this
that was
over
the
here the
city hall
annex too?
annex.
Okay.
If it was the library annex, it would have to be in there. It would, a lot of those go right through their projects in their fund.
So it's just terminology thing, okay.
And I agree, we could find some better terminology.
Let's annex it.
What is government if it isn't confusing?
And the pool fund is next. Oh, Amy, you had your, did you have a question?
I'm just, nope. I'm
Just keeping the ball rolling.
keeping the
Okay,
ball
thank
rolling.
you.
So that would also encapsulate page 20 for library. Anybody have any more questions on the library's expenditures or revenue? Okay, moving on to pages 21 and 22. Alder Finkler?
For, on page 22, 805, credit card process fees, I see that is going up, and that's just typical, it's going up everywhere. Are we able
No,
to pass?
we're at the same rate. This is only for their recreations. What's your portal called? The recreation credit card company?
I can't, my rack.
MyRec.
But this is the pool.
It uses MyRec system.
Right.
So
We're charged
the,
3%.
it is not built into the fee because we have our fee schedule. So
Right.
we're paying those on top of it. And then some of the funds, I'm able to put it, I don't like netting. So I created accounts to expense it.
It says 100% change, but the amounts look the same.
Right, it says 100% change, which pinged me to look at it, which made me wonder why. I mean, industry standard nowadays, it seems like we're passing that on to the
These are
customer.
Those
And
from last
why
year
are
again.
why are we paying this? And maybe we should consider passing that on to the customer.
Are they able to do that in MyRec?
So if
We
they
do
are
it for
enrolling
permitting and all
themselves
that.
at home, they're paying the fee. If they're doing it at the pool, we are paying the fee. So if somebody's charging the credit card for a deposit or the rental fee, we are deducting that off of their deposit, so they are paying, but we are charging them 3.5% versus the 3% that we pay. We just changed that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, she's
So,
kind of asking
if
why
you're at
why
home
can't we
As long
go
as
to
it
a
makes sense to
system?
you.
If you're at home enrolling, you're paying the fee yourself. It's added on to your charge.
Okay,
If somebody is doing like a deposit, we are charging them back 3.5% when we paid the 3%. Because we figured there was administrative costs in there.
Right.
You know, for cutting the check and all that stuff back. If they come to the pool, we are paying that ourselves, we're absorbing it, but it does come out in the end.
okay, so it comes out, like, kind of balances out with the revenue.
It does.
Okay.
the more they charge, if you keep, we talked about this once before, the more they charge, if you keep adding that fee on top of it, where do you, it just gets to be more and more. So.
Alder Lawson?
On page 21, pool manager, is this the other portion of the rec assistant salary?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And Molly, you are correct, both of those should say 0%. I circled them so I can fix them. These are all from last year's worksheet, sorry.
Any other questions on the pool, pages 21 and 22? Page 23, room tax fund. Okay, any questions on page 24, cable fund?
Just point out, franchise fees continue to decrease, and my recent experience with Charter in securing internet for my home, there was not even discussion of them wanting to sell me cable. Like, they don't even market it anymore as an option. It's a loss leader for them, and it'll be interesting to see how much longer they continue to provide cable service.
Alder Finkler?
For cable TV, the professional services has doubled. Do we know why that's doubled?
Oh, increase for more captioning, and David's back there and he might be able to explain, but there's additional costs for us putting the captioning for what you see on cable at home, the captioning.
For our meetings.
Yeah.
Perfect. I have
Yeah.
had many people wanting that, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alder Rosted?
And the contribution program, the decrease, can you explain that? From budgeted for almost 31,000, and then next year we're budgeting just about 10.5.
Oh, these are the amounts that, media coordinator. All right, so our media coordinator, David, and when you looked at the general fund, there was a section for his salary, or his pay. And some of that pay, later, I get a worksheet of every payday, the direct number of hours that are related to cable and tourism. So I charge cable and I charge tourism. With his additional duties that he's taken on and working with Mike on community development, we've looked at that distribution on where we think it's going to be next year, where he's going to put his time next year. So all those accounts that get affected were adjusted.
Thank you.
Any other questions on page 24? Okay, page 25, garbage and recycling. Alder Finkler?
Our dumpster charges went through the roof for expenditures 300. Is that at our recycling place?
Which line are you on?
300?
You mean 296, right?
No, 296 is where it came back.
Oh, yeah, they were not budgeted correctly last year, and it's being shifted from a different account. If you go down and look at dumpster charges below, it was budgeted at 4.8, and now it's 1.3. I had to flip them. They're in the wrong place.
Oh, I see.
So the
And this-
numbers are in there accurate as in dollars, but
Okay.
I had to flip them. I put them in the right place.
All right.
Yep. Good eye, Molly. Just had to look at the other one to go with it.
Any other questions on page 25? Page 26, cemetery fund. 27, Columbus Area EMS Group.
Change that number.
Page 28, Special Parks Fund.
Oh, sorry, I thought I got it to go off. Oh, there it goes, okay.
Page 29, Tourism Commission, Alder Finkler.
Special events. What are the special events for the tourism? It's gone up significantly.
Local nonprofit fund matching for local events, and they're anticipating trying to provide more next year.
I have no idea what that
They
means.
do like a fund match for like when the holiday train comes in or Redbud Days, things that are being put on in the city that draws tourism. They can ask for, I think it's 2 to 1, that every $2 they spend, they can apply for $1 from tourism for support through the room tax.
And they're just
credits.
looking to increase that to
Yes.
bring in more
Increase that
tourism.
budget.
And these
Okay.
are, there are state statute requirements on how that money is distributed out in terms of marketing and focus on heads and beds and trying to generate room tax.
Alder Lawson?
Well, we got one of my questions there. The other one is materials and services doubled for tourism.
We're looking.
Digital wayfinding signage?
That's the digital boards.
Yeah.
Okay.
The digital boards,
Do you say digital wayfinding? Didn't we just put up like non-digital ones?
They've been looking at kiosks in certain locations for a while as well, additional. to
Is
those.
that like, for example, DeForest has like the one up by the Welcome to DeForest sign where it displays like events going on in the city and stuff? Is that what we're talking about?
I think that's part of the plan, yeah, to do like one in the park by the pavilion and possibly one, but, yeah.
At the
Amtrak.
Davies.
Yeah,
Oh.
at the Davies Park.
Sweet.
Any other questions on tourism, page 29? Okay, page 30, revolving loan fund.
There's currently 3 loans out right now.
Page 31, debt service fund. Alder Rosted?
Yeah, so on the amended budget to this budget, there's a, well, I can't say 000 because they're all the same, but transfer from TIF 7, there, on the amended budget, there was 118,000 in there, and now it's missing from the new budget.
Oh, that was a presumption on my part that I put a street project in the TIF, which should not have been there.
Okay. And then I did notice, I believe, I want to say a lot of the TIF account numbers are identical.
I'm sorry, what were you looking at?
I'll find it later. I'll come back to it because I had it highlighted on a different
Okay.
page.
Oh, not on this page we're talking about. Okay.
Alder Lawson?
So we're still on page 31?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
Okay. The TIF 7, that's not going to generate increment until the following year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why the debt service was structured for the stormwater project at Fireman's Park, so that it would have zero, it had to pay, it accrues, and then they pay it 2 years later. And that was part of the debt structure. It's actually embedded in the worksheets that he brought today.
Any more questions on page 31?
It should be zero.
Okay, page 32, TIF 3. Alder Lawson?
Is this the one that got closed out?
TIF 3 is closed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I keep it in there because we have the money and we have periodic expenses for, what do you call the liability? Yeah. It officially closed, but we're still holding some cash that's, at some point will be required to be paid out. Sorry.
Any other questions on page 32? Okay, page 33, TIF 4.
Ryan, is this where you started having your questions on TIFs?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what I did. I thought the account number, I thought a lot of them were identical to a different TIF.
No, the first three numbers should have been different.
See, that's what I probably didn't look at.
The first three numbers identify the TIF. The other numbers are going to be similar or the same account number, so that we're consistent in our accounting as I can be.
That's what I found, but I didn't apply the first three.
The first three, yeah.
Thank you.
That's your identifier for the fund.
Any questions on page 34, TIF 5? Okay, page 35, TIF 6.
And just so you're aware, on TIF 6, there is fund balance to cover the negative year's budget. They had a decrease in their assessed value of the TIF increment.
We should be seeing some increase here with
Yeah.
46 North Davis.
Some additional increase for next year.
Page 36, capital projects and equipment. Alder Rosted.
I believe it's fire. Yeah, 801 towards the bottom. And obviously on the matrix, we lost the other half of 92. You were gonna update us what we still owe on it, or like, did we pay it
Yeah,
off?
it's not
Did
going to
you
be due till 2026.
Okay.
So we're not putting it in capital.
In
Yeah.
Greg's presentation, it was shown as a 2026, part of the 2026 borrowing.
Okay.
Yeah, we postponed it.
Page 37 is also then capital projects.
Oh, but Ryan, I can make a note to loop back and tell you how much will be due, if you're still interested.
I followed it on here.
Okay,
I just noticed the
wasn't in here.
decrease, and then we
Yeah.
talked about, we were gonna find out if we could pay it, if we could pay
Pay it early.
yeah.
Page 38, TIF 7. Alder Lawson.
So how does this work when a TIF is underwater? I mean,
It stays there and the general fund supports it. It's financially reported in our financial statements at the end of the year. There would be an amount, it's kind of like a due to, due from. It's an amount owing to the general fund. The general fund has cash available to support the TIF till it runs. And then there's journal entries the auditors will help me make later years to show that it's been paid back.
after the increment comes in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Rosted.
Yeah, can you just
That's all on the balance sheet, Michael. Yeah.
can you just explain why we lost 800 from the amended budget, 800,000 off, I was gonna say the line item, but they're the identical account number, but
Oh, that was the one in the capital projects that you noticed that the TIF was lowered? That
Okay.
was a street project? And the street project itself is apportioned out and attributed to the city, the storm, the water, and the sewer.
Okay.
So it's in capital projects, just in a different way now.
And then, like project engineering, construction, storm, is that the same example? That we lost all that money there?
Yeah, the expenses were taken out and the potential bond proceeds were taken out.
Okay,
Yeah, so it was a match.
thank you.
Any other questions on page 38, TIF 7? Okay. Page 39, Stormwater Fund. Alder Lawson?
Okay, so this still assumes no utility revenue fees generated, right?
Correct. Paid for from general fund borrowing, or general fund.
Yeah, until you have those fees in place that could support the expenses, we're asking for the levy.
Any other questions on page 39? Oh, sure.
There's a January date where we have to have the question drafted.
It's with the tax levy by the city, where it will be, but I don't know why. Or grants received, maybe,
In which fund?
stormwater. Yeah, stormwater fund.
So that's,
Page 39,
yeah.
I gotta find the amended budget.
I don't have any grants received in there. Not until you get it.
Yeah, so surplus retained earnings, we got 40,000 in the new budget, but in the amended, there was none, so where'd that?
Oh, well, we're bonding early for 2025 projects, so I have to carry it.
Okay,
Because it's going to show up on 2024's books.
There's $40,000 in stormwater expenses for the Brookside project. in
okay, that's
2025.
that right there.
It's the street project, right?
Thank you.
It's the Brookside.
Any other questions on page 39? I just want to make sure. Alder Rasta, did you get all your questions answered? Okay, no problem. Page 40, funds held in trust. Alder Lawson?
Okay, I can't remember from beautification if we decided to exhaust the May ward or not.
It's not been brought forward on a council agenda that I've read or heard.
Okay,
That was discussion, and I think the history has gone back so far that it would be up to the council. We might want to refer to legal counsel on that because of, to me, a May Ward Fund is normally an endowment. I don't know if this is an official endowment, but the city's been funding it for several years. So if there was any original endowment, it's gone.
so we're not putting, it looks like according to this, we're not adding anything else to the May ward fund.
$1,500, $1,500 a year. That's what's been going into the fund from the city.
So I see the expense coming out, but I don't see that going in. Where is that?
Contribution from general fund.
Yeah, and the expenses haven't been made under the
Gotcha.
topic of May Ward awards from the May Ward Fund. Since I've been here, they've not even discussed giving awards out anymore. They're awarded to people who want to do a project in the city.
Right.
And it's been more of the beautification downtown, the flowers and those types of things that have been carrying on in this fund for several years now. And the general fund is contributing $1,500 a year. That's the line up above. It's contribution from general fund. And the beautification committee has asked to be able to use those funds instead of saying they're to the May Ward Fund, so beautification can use those funds. So it's a topic that you're gonna wanna bring forward at some point if the May Ward Fund definition terminology for this fund is even applicable anymore. And following the procedures, because there's a policy procedure that it has to go to council for approval. Somewhere I read a policy. I got it in my office somewhere, I could find it.
I also have a question on beautification expenses that reminded me, looking at what they're budgeted for this year and what they've actually spent year to date, as of 8/13. We voted on some banners for the downtown area with like the high school artwork on them. Where did that ever wind up?
I don't know about those banners.
So unfortunately, the gentleman that was going to donate money for the banners recently passed away. So we just discussed last night, kind of bringing that back up for discussion, try to see where we go. We did get some information. It seems like the banners may not cost as much as we originally thought. And we'll hopefully have some movement on it in the next month or two.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions on page 40? Okay, 41, historic land preservation.
This is not a fund that we typically write a budget for. I could have taken the projected year-to-date and zeroed it out, but I was writing myself notes that day. But at the end of the year, they have all their records transferred to me, and I get photocopies of everything. And then I review it and go over it with the auditors and enter it. So what you do have is 2023's actuals to go by. I'm expecting it to be very similar.
Page 42, Hillside Cemetery Association. Any questions?
Same thing, it's not a fund I typically budget for, but we do enter it on the city's books at the end of the year.
And then page 43, Library Foundation Fund. Okay, I think that's everything. So is everybody comfortable then with moving this on to the next step? Do you have what you need from this discussion
I believe
for
so.
2 weeks from now? Okay.
Crystal? Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote all my notes as we went, I'm good.
Okay. Next item is discussion regarding disposal of 2012 Chevy Volt. Matt?
We have a Chevy Volt. It's not been used in the last year. It's currently stored in the library garage. We don't anticipate staff using it and are asking for permission to dispose of it by a surplus auction.
Alder Finkler?
Are they not using it because it's not needed, or are they not using it because it is not functioning well?
I don't want to say it's not functioning well. As a lover of cars left for City Hall staff in the communities I've worked in, most of them have had their life exhausted and their last days are spent as a vehicle for City Hall staff to get around in. I think there is less confidence in the vehicle in terms of operating and functioning. We're going to make sure that it starts and declare everything that we know is wrong with it before putting it on surplus. But I don't see there being interest in using the vehicle currently by city staff, and that we'll have to have some internal discussions in terms of, is that something we want to look at in next year's capital request as a vehicle for City Hall staff. I know that there would be, if we had a reliable vehicle that maybe had the ability to haul things for election purposes, for recreation purposes, I know it would be utilized by staff.
Okay, because that was gonna be my next question. If we're not using it, why is it up for replacement? But you're still, that's to be looked into and figured out yet. Okay.
And I hope everyone appreciates it's hard to purchase a new vehicle to be used in the, we don't use it enough to justify, so the hope would be we'd be able to identify something that maybe we're disposing of that would be reliable and would be usable.
Alder Reed?
Oh, no, not a question. I'm just tickled to see this coming up as library has been wondering when the garage space may be available at some point in the future. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is everybody comfortable moving that forward? Okay. Next item is discussion regarding the certified survey map, CSM, for Prairie Ridge Hospital. Mike?
Yeah, this is a pretty basic certified survey map. And it's in the future, at a later date, there'll be another CSM and then a rezone. So eventually it's gonna have some additional hospital parking and long-term hospital expansion. So, but this is the first step in transferring the property to Prairie Ridge Hospital.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Everybody comfortable moving it forward? Okay. Next item, request for proposal, building inspection services. Mike, that's also you?
Yeah, this, we've been with our current contractor since 2020. It's worthwhile to go out and explore other options. This RFP lays out the parameters of what we're looking for. And so we'll have the opportunity to see some other consultants out there to help us out. Certainly, we'll share this RFP with Safe Built as our current provider as well. But this is just kind of good practice. Go out and take a look at what other options are out there.
Alder Rostad?
Has Safe Built stepped up to the plate again? Provide an inspector for the city? Because we were short one, right? They didn't provide one? They were doing in-home, or they weren't doing on-site visits?
They're still primarily doing virtual inspections primarily. There's some cases where they have somebody come up, but that's kind of the staffing challenge in this field that is seen throughout the state and the country. So that is one of the challenges we currently face. If we do move on, if we do need to move on to another vendor, we will have to give some notification coming up here in the next couple weeks regarding, just giving some notice. So if there is going to be a change in the contract, council would need to give that notice.
Any other questions?
I could go back and answer her question on the mayor and the council.
Oh.
I finally remembered. Finish with your item.
Is everybody comfortable moving that one? Sorry. Alder Rostad.
In the RFP, can we add something that says if they don't meet the minimum requirements that you identified, like on page 8 and 9, that they're rejected?
We can.
Any other questions or thoughts on that one? Comfortable moving it forward with that verbiage added? Okay. Crystal?
Well, going back to page 4, I am going to find out why the salary line on city council goes from 24.4 to 25.2. It looks like it might be picking up There was the stipend that you guys get, and I think it might have been missing or in a different account. I want to find out why that looks different to me. But in 2023, part of the mayor and the council were being allocated to the utilities. Do you remember the overhead allocation? Okay, that predated both of you. You remember. You know what I'm talking about, the overhead allocation. Okay, for 1 year, the year when, the one I got here, it was in the budget. They had not charged them for like 6 months, and I had to do a back bill for 6 months, and then they paid up for the year. And that's when we determined it probably should never have been in there in the first place, and we removed it. So the utilities are not paying part of administrative salaries, which they're paying part of administrative salaries for Kyle and I. I'm sorry, that was on my mind because that was the year it started, when we did it wrong. I didn't want to say his name, and then I did.
It's been a long day.
No, I didn't sleep last night, so I'm starting to really fall out now.
Crystal spent a majority of her day at the utility today, so it's been a long day with lots of numbers, so.
Yeah. But that's why 2023 and 2024 changed. So,
Thank you for that.
yes. No, this was actual data. Yeah, they were being charged, part of your salary was being charged to the utilities, and in 2024 it was not.
2023, it started.
2023 it was being charged, and 2024 it is not.
And it shouldn't.
No.
Next item is consider and discuss ordering 2025 squad car. Chief Weiner?
Do it till last.
Good evening again. Just wanted to talk about a little into the 2025 budget and an issue that I've just recently discovered with potentially purchasing a squad car as part of it. The last few years, ever since COVID, like everything else, one of the things that has been really dynamic is the purchasing and ordering of squad cars. They got backlogged, the plans were shut down for a while. Last year, they were still backlogged. They've kind of gotten back to a reasonably degree of normalcy, if there is such a thing. But what I've discovered now, typically in the past, erase COVID from the situation, you could pretty much order a squad car anytime you wanted, and you'd have it in 2 or 3 months. That would not be an issue. Now, they're still catching up a little bit with the backlogs, so they only take so many orders, and then they just cut them off. They're done. Ford is taking orders now. There's no projected date that they're going to cut them off. It could be any day. That's what happened last year. They just arbitrarily cut it off. We tried to put an order through. The dealership didn't even know that Ford had cut it off, and it got rejected. They called me 3 days later and said, guess what? You're not getting a squad. So then we ended up with a Chevy Tahoe in the end. So in talking to Aaron at Napleton and getting a quote together for what the 2025 squad will be, she did tell me that the order window is open now. There's no projected date for it to close. But in reality, they'll get to a certain point of so many orders of what they anticipate they can produce, and then they're just going to stop it. So waiting until the budget process and approval could be problematic because it's at risk of closing any day. Or, I mean, it's just, there's no way to predict it. They're basically told a cutoff date with minimal notice, so I won't even really have any lead time to come back to you and say, hey, we got to make this decision. So what I wanted to open up a discussion about tonight was the possibility of committing to an order at some point in time, preferably sooner than later, and considering it before the budget has been officially approved. I know that's unorthodox, but so is this whole process. Chevy has already closed their window for 2025 squads. I probably in reality wouldn't go with another Chevrolet squad for a variety of reasons. Dodge, I believe, is still taking orders, but I would like to stay where we could get it done locally if we need warranty or recall work. Otherwise, we'd have to go to Beaver Dam or to Madison for a Dodge. We do have a Dodge Durango that we got in 2023, but again, that was one of those, it was either get that or not get anything. And then later in 2023, when we were looking at ordering for this year, the Chevy Tahoe came available, and we were able to get that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for some direction on, whether that would be a possibility or we take the risk until the budget is approved and maybe not end up with anything for next year.
Questions? Alder Lawson?
I mean, I think you got a great quote considering what they cost, so it makes sense for me to move forward so we don't miss our opportunity.
Well, today, cleaning up some computer files with the migration to OneDrive, I came across some of the quotes from like 16, 17, and 18. And squads have almost doubled since 2017. So, and it's not going to get better. It's just one of those things. You know, I thought it was a little high, but it is what it is. And this is pretty much the going rate for squads. What it is Ford is subsidizing less the state contract or the discounted price is what it really boils down to. I mean, this is closing in on close to the price of a retail one if you went and bought one yourself. I mean, $45,000, $46,000. You know, basically equipped Ford Explorer for personal use is probably in that bracket, give or take. So I'm just looking for some direction. I know you would probably have to approve it at the next meeting, but I can commit to Aaron as soon as possible would be my preference, but it's up to you guys.
Alder Reed?
Oh, yeah. I'm extremely comfortable going ahead with getting in an early order to try and make sure we're able to get a vehicle next year, period, and hopefully one of the preferred ones. Do we have to do any kind of special loan towards the PFC since it's ahead of the budget?
Well, let's just say perfect world, you guys all kind of give me the unofficial nod today, I go place an order tomorrow. It won't be here by January 1st. They're looking at 2.5 to 3 month delivery is what it's running now. So we wouldn't have to make any sort of a financial commitment or payment until after January 1. That I covered with Erin at Napleton right away, and she said, no, it won't be here by January 1st. And you don't pay until you pick it up.
Thank you. It's a bigger yes then.
Well, and I think just to clarify, as Chief said, he's going to let Napleton know that we're moving forward with the order tomorrow, and we'll place this on the October 29th council agenda for approval.
Alder Rostad?
No, I think Chief answered it.
Okay.
So you don't need no money. Aaron says no money down up front to confirm.
We've
or
never paid for a
hold
car
it.
until the day we're driving it off the lot, ever. So this isn't anything special. It's just, they order it and we pay for it upon pickup. Because they got to calculate the title, fees, and if there's a plate fee or when to transfer. So all that stuff's done just like when we buy a vehicle. When you pick the car up, you pay for it.
Yeah, and there's no fee needed to hold your
Nothing.
position. Okay.
Everybody comfortable moving this forward?
And give an authorization order?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Okay, I think all that's left is adjourning, so I'll take a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any
Forgot what
discussion?
to do.
All right, hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.